Greetings, students. This video is to explain the basic components needed for the data analysis and parent communication assignment that is given in the classroom assessment course at Daytona State College. In red, you see that the purpose that we have for this assignment is attached to several FEEPs, Florida Educators, and what we're looking for is your ability to share the importance and outcomes of student assessment data with students and the student's parent or caregiver, and also use and apply technology to organize and integrate assessment information and determine and apply the appropriate use of maintenance of student information and records. So the way that we're going to accomplish that is twofold. In part one, during this course, or the most of this course, so probably a good 6 to 7 weeks of this course, you are going to be observing every type of assessment given in the classroom. So if you're a visiting teacher, visiting someone else's classroom, anytime you're in the classroom and there's an assessment being given, whether it's formal or informal, diagnostic, formative, summative, you need to make note of that. And it's going to go in this chart in part one. If you are a employed teacher in your own classroom, any of the assessments that you give in class ought to be recorded in this chart. So we're looking for your ability to record these assessments and then to explain and describe them. Each assessment is going to need for you to determine its classification. And there are 3 classifications that you need to provide. You need to tell me if it's norm or criterion reference. That's the first one. Then you need to tell me if it's diagnostic, formative, or summative. That's the second one. And then the third one is you need to tell me if it's a standardized assessment, textbook, teacher-made, or maybe it's a district assessment. These are not the only options, but where did the assessment come from? That's the third one. So for example, if you had observed FAIR testing during your time in the classroom, you would first tell me that that is criterion referenced. You would designate it as diagnostic, and that is definitely a standardized assessment. Okay, so there's 3 things in this first column for each individual assessment that you observe. Then in the next column, you're going to explain how it's graded or assessed. So are points used, percentages used? Is it a check plus? Perhaps it's just observational in nature. Maybe it's the teacher is just looking for a thumbs up, thumbs down type, or it's an exit ticket, or maybe it's something like the FAIR where it's electronic grading with instant results. The scores are based on the probability of reading success or the reading comprehension percentile score, and it might give these different sub scores. So whatever the outcome of the assessment is, you need to explain it here. And then you need to explain the method of communication with the student and the parent. So for this particular one, this example, the teacher witnessed that there was a student-teacher conference. The parent conference or results were then sent home as specific to that test. It might just be that it's put in the grade book, or it might be, if it's super informal, it might be that those results are communicated just teacher to student verbally. And then what we want to see is, did you actually witness this? And the reason this column is here is because you might be impacted by assessments taking place during your fieldwork that you don't actually witness. So let's say you're in a high school and you're in your field classroom and you've got 10 kids missing because they're down in the media center taking the PERT test. So PERT is happening while you're teaching. Your students are taking the PERT, but you're not actually witnessing it. You could add the PERT test to this chart because it's part of the whole package of assessment, what happens in a school, and anything that occurs in the school during your time, mostly the things that impact your students, should be recorded. Now, if you're in the classroom doing your field work, or this is your regular classroom, and it's during FSA season, and you're observing like 12 days of FSA testing, I don't need 12 rows telling me that you saw day 1 of ELA, day 2 of ELA, makeups of ELA, day 1 of math. Like, I don't need all of that. You can just say what the FSA testing experience was like and fill out 1 row for that. Just a couple other examples here. There's an EOC, there's a spelling test. Obviously one student's probably not taking a spelling test and an EOC in the same grade level, but I was trying to give some different examples. So part one is real simple. It's just this table based on your experiences. And a lot of times students ask me like, how many? Well, it's however many you saw. In a 6 or 7 week period, you should be in the classroom for 15 hours if you're a visiting teacher. And then, of course, if you're the employed teacher, you should be there every day. You should see at least 6 or 7. That would be 1 a week, especially because I'm including formal and informal testing. So this chart, it shouldn't be 2 or 3. At very minimum, I would think you would see 6 assessments. Now, maybe not. Maybe you're in a specific experience and you can explain to me why, you only had 5 assessments that you observed. That's fine. But I would guess anywhere between 6 and 15, depending on the nature of the season, if this is spring testing season or if this is a particular time of year where there's a lot of assessments, or if you're in high school where there's a lot happening, or if your teacher just assesses a lot or you assess a lot. So I'm not looking for a specific number. I'm looking for something that seems reasonable for your grade level and your subject area. And I'm really looking for, do you understand norm versus criteria, diagnostic, formative, or summative, and where the test came from, and then being able to communicate with parents and students about how the assessment is graded. So that's what's important about this table. Now, part 2, I will give you a data set, okay? It's provided in your course shell. This is not your data set for part 2. Do not make up a data set. Do not use the data from your teaching experience or your teaching lesson. I will give you a data set, and we will also do a practice data set in class. So you will use that data set and you will answer these 3 questions. And I'm looking for several paragraphs here. Question 1 is, what trends do you notice in the data set? Give examples of trends in the standard, trends in the groups of student in each achievement level, and trends in the formative. A good writer could write 3 paragraphs right there. You could tell me about standards and trends. You could tell me about the groups, like how level 1 kids do and their comparison to level 2 compared to level 3 kids. And then you could tell me about, in a 3rd paragraph, trends in formative assessment. So I'm looking for you to analyze, look at trends, and write. Now, I don't want a dissertation, but I'm telling you that anywhere between 2 and 3 paragraphs should handle question 1. For question 2, how do you design remediation in our acceleration groups, and what would you focus on? So you're using these trends to apply to something in your classroom. You're using this data, assume it's something that you are teaching, and you're going to explain to me how you would form these groups. Are you going to put groups together that are homogeneous, heterogeneous? Are you going to do teacher directed? Are you going to use a computer program to do some remediation? What about acceleration? This is easily another 1 or 2 paragraphs explaining your thoughts on how to design instruction based on data. I need to know that you know how to take data and turn that into instructional decision making. And then finally, if you were to implement a review activity prior to the summative assessment and wanted to strategically group students, how would you group them, and what's an example of a review activity you could do? So again, I need you to explain how you would strategically group them. Are you going to group them by achievement level? Are you going to group them by behavior issues? Are you going to group them heterogeneously? And what are you going to do to review? So give me an example of an instructional activity in your toolbox that you would use to review with your students before the summative assessment. So this section here should be anywhere between 1.5 and 2 pages long. I'm looking for you to analyze and clearly write how you would take data and turn it into instructional decision making. So here's your bullets of what's included. I need that table from part 1. Make sure that you've got, of course, your title page, any citations, make sure it's APA like all the other assessments. But we want that completed chart with the labeling, definitely the formative and the summative and criterion and the norm. Make sure all of that is done. Part 2, I'm looking for clear answers to the questions and evidence that you've used data analysis to connect to teacher strategies that you would use. And that's it. So that should help to put this assignment together. I hope you enjoy the data analysis portion of this and learn a lot about how to use data to inform instruction. Best of luck to you.